Hi, my name's Phil. I like to talk about politics. So the government has announced plans for a Brexit festival. It was initially put forward under Theresa May's government, but has now been authorised by Boris Johnson. It's got the go-ahead. It's going to happen in 2022, apparently, a national festival. And in this discussion, what I'd like to do is to explain my opposition to it, though it may not be for the obvious reason. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and political commentary, then please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So I think most people's objections to the 2022 Festival of Brexit, which has come in for a fair amount of stick, is naturally going to run down the lines of it being insensitive to half of the country, which actually is in reality more than half of the country, that are opposed to Brexit. It's been billed as an opportunity to bring people together, but actually represents about the most divisive thing you could possibly do. Brexit has been the most divisive thing that I have known in this country growing up. And I grew up in a mining village in the 80s, for goodness sake. So having a festival lauding it is, of course, going to be incredibly divisive in British society. And taking place in 2022, of course, it also runs the risk of being a completely damp squib. If you thought the Millennium Dome fiasco was an embarrassment, I mean, what about a national celebration of an event that by 2022 will have fallen very flat indeed, even amongst not all, let's not be silly, but an awful lot of the people supporting it right now. Indeed, as Brexiteers, they'll be no longer able to say at that point that the problems we're having are because we haven't left yet. And they won't be able to blame Parliament either, because Parliament have now done it. But that's not my objection. You know, that's just something that's going to make it seem ridiculous. But there's so many ridiculous things happen now. Frankly, what is one more national embarrassment? It's a bit like the Brexiteer plan to have Big Ben chime for Brexit at 11 p.m. or just after on January the 31st, Brexit Day. I couldn't care less. Couldn't care less. It didn't actually go through for a vote in the end, so it's not going to happen. Although I did gather that Mark Francois, who's one of the ones pushing for it, has offered to climb the bell tower himself with a hammer. Great, fine. I'd be fully in support of that. I can't think of anyone who would actually stop him doing that. See how far he gets up that bell tower on his podgy little legs. I think it would be hilarious. And if he did manage to climb, I'm not 100% sure what he expects to find up there. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Londoners. I don't know how this works. But I thought that Big Ben was out of commission for repairs at the moment. Maybe he could just get up there and bang his hollow head, chime that instead. But in all seriousness, I actually don't mind whether they do that or not. I wouldn't have been outraged if that had gone through for a vote and the Conservatives had voted for it. It doesn't bother me. It might bother Londoners, you know, but as far as I'm concerned, it's a local issue for local people. I'm a couple hundred miles away. Doesn't hurt me. I don't really think it hurts anyone else. Come to it. It's a sound at the end of the day. It's not costing a lot of money. No one cares. I don't care anyway. It's the same thing with Nigel Farage's party in London. A lot of people are up in arms about this, 100 grand party he's going to throw in London to celebrate Brexit. If Brexit supporters want to pay to line Nigel Farage's pockets a little bit further and get a pickled egg and a bottle of beer out of it, that's fine by me. Why would I mind? As long as it's been organised legally, as long as it's going through the authorities and everything's up and above board, I hope they have a lovely time. Again, it does no harm to me, and I don't really know that it does any harm to even people in London. And that's because it's privately funded. The Brexit Festival is costing £120 million of public money. That's Remainers taxes being used to fund something that seems almost designed to irritate that portion of the population. Can you imagine a more spiteful act? It's like being assaulted by a mugger and then being told you've got to pay for the dry cleaning to get your blood out of their coat. And that's just the principle. What about all the times that we've been told there's no money to help the homeless or starving children? £120 million wouldn't solve the problem, but do you know what? You could certainly ease it. That £120 million, which does nobody any good apart from those pocketing it in the festival, could actually save British lives. okay? Spending it on a divisive and ill-judged festival, it's a form of neglect when our government pleads poverty whenever it's asked about protecting the vulnerable in our society. It's like a bad parent spending money on booze and leaving nothing for the groceries. And that's what my objection is. I couldn't care less if this festival were privately sponsored. You might find it irritating when you go out into the town centre and there's all this going on, whatever the hell is going to be going on. But at the end of the day, things like that can happen anyway. Some things some public demonstrations and public festivals I may be opposed to anyway. Some I may be in favour of. It doesn't matter. I don't have to engage with them. As long as it's all done legally and authorities are okay with it, then that's fine by me. Leave it to the councils. So yeah, have it privately sponsored. And given that there are plenty of Brexit backers who have made hundreds of millions by shorting the pound throughout this whole farce of the last few years, maybe they should be tapped up instead of taking it out the Treasury. Because if Brexit is so good for us and the Conservatives are such fans of privatisation, then why not privatise the one thing that wouldn't upset any socialists? Silly bloody white elephant. Privatise the Brexit festival and there'll be no complaints from me. And then spend that £120 million, which we apparently, have spare, on meals for those going hungry. Or something else. Do some other good with it. If that money's going to spare, do some good with it. And while we're at it, we're also due, I believe, an extra 300 million quid a week for the NHS, aren't we, Boris? So I hope you found the video interesting. Let me know your thoughts on the festival down below. If you've enjoyed the video, then please click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, then please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.